If you knew you were enough, what would your life look like? What would love look like? This is the Enough Factor broadcast, where we're redefining what makes you enough in life and in love. Now here's your host, Suzanne. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Enough Factor Podcast. It's your life coach and relationship solutionist, Suzanne. And as always, I am so happy that you've tuned in. If you're new, my mission with this podcast is to help you to redefine what makes you enough in life and in love on your own terms. How do I do it? I do it by amplifying what I call 3 critical factors of enoughness, and they are your voice, your value, and your vision. And here to help me is hair designer and platform artist, Miki Wright. But before I bring her on, I just have to tell you a little bit from my standpoint. I'm going to introduce her with all her, bio, but from my standpoint, let me just tell you a little bit. I met Miki several years ago at a mutual friend's book launch. And I was impressed. She doesn't know this. This is her first time hearing it. I was impressed with her poise and her warmth. And as life would have it, we reconnected on Instagram. And I've been impressed with the excellence that she brings to her industry. You see, Miki went from a struggling stylist to booked solid in months, not years. She then went on to own a salon where she trained her stylists how to duplicate her success. She was one of the first owners of a full-service salon and day spa in the country, y'all. Fabulous Finishes, her former salon and spa, was named one of the 200 fastest growing salons in the country by Salon Today magazine for 3 consecutive years. So why not learn what it really takes to grow your salon business from someone who's been in your shoes? Yes, she's a boss who helps others become bosses too. But most of all, she's a great person who has continued to empower others to have excellence with integrity in all that they do. So join me in giving a hearty Enough Factor podcast welcome to Miki Wright. Welcome, Miki.
Hi there, Suzette. It's like, well, thank you so much for the warm welcome. It's like I didn't expect all of that, so thank you.
I always have to add my little bit of spin there, because we have our bios, but what is it that Maya Angelou says? That people may forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you make them feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's the way you made me feel. Our encounter was very brief, but you just brought such a warmth and elegance into the room. And that stuck with me. So when I saw you again on Instagram, I was like, oh, that's Miki. And she's liking my post. What?
Okay. Yes. I'm absolutely a huge fan from the beginning. It's like you were, I think, about to come out with your book when we met, and you were telling me about it, and, telling us we were all seated at a table, and it was just like, wow, that is fascinating. And so I absolutely love what you're doing, because I think it's so empowering and so needed. And a lot of us spend a lot of time in not enoughness. And so thank you.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. We do. And it makes what we're going to talk about today even so much more rich. But first, I always like to start my podcast with what I call truth and dare. Now, the good part about it is it's different from the truth or dare question. But the bad part about it is you don't get a choice between what to choose.
Okay.
It's all one question. So are you ready?
I believe so. I hope so.
Okay, here goes. What is the truth about yourself that your relationship with your hair and beauty required you to see and dared you to take radical action on?
Wow, that is a pretty profound question. So thank you for that. I think the thing that comes to mind is I'm tall. It's like I've been tall my entire life. I've just, kind of kept growing. And my first love was fashion. And so I always loved, I had magazines stacked up on my bedside and what have you. I knew all of the models and their stats and all that kind of good stuff. And so when I was about 13, I think I got the opportunity to go to modeling school. And it was life-changing, actually. I was very shy. And there was just something magical that happened when I got on the stage, to walk the runway and that type of thing. And I don't know that I was good or anything, but like it just felt really like I'm at home. It's like I feel comfortable, being in front of people in that way. And so it really, I think, kind of like when you say dared me, it's like I think it dared me to see myself in a different light and see myself being able to not be as shy, to share some of my thoughts and some of my, experiences and that type of thing. And I did get to do some modeling, but then realize it's like I really want to be on the other side of it, where I'm putting together the things that people are seeing and that people are taking in. So I would say you might be
Wow.
there.
Oh my goodness. So you didn't start out with hair so much as you start out more with the beauty part of the fashion part of it first. So how
Right.
did it migrate into the hair and beauty portion of it?
It's really like a wild thing. I guess you could say a God thing. But
Okay.
my mom went to cosmetology school when I was an infant, like 6 weeks old or something. And so she was in it for a little while until my next sister was born. And then she went back into it when I was probably 11 or 12 or something like that. And so I was around it kind of all my life, but I
Mhm.
never imagined doing it, thought about it. It's like I went with her to hair shows. And so I think, between just being around it, going to the hair shows, which I found fascinating because there's hair and fashion and beauty and makeup and all of those things and, choreography and all of those things going on all at the same time. And watching people cut hair was really always fascinating to me. Like, how you could have someone whose hair was just hanging long and straight, and then they come out with this big wedge and have all this movement and body. And so that was, I guess, my kind of introduction, but neither my mom nor myself knew that I would end up in the beauty industry. But years later, it's like when I went to um, school and college, it's like I always worked full time and went to school part time. And so one of my colleagues liked the way I did my hair. So she asked if I could do her daughter's hair, do like a relaxer and trim. And so I said, I probably could, I guess so. And so I did it. And her husband is the kind of person that pretty much like never likes anything. And when I finished, he was raving like, oh my God, that was
Wow.
a precision cut. You should, just quit your job and do this. And I'm like, what? So I talked to my mom and she was like, well, definitely don't quit your job. Like you're not moving back home. So, but she said, try out cosmetology school and see, if you even like it. And, there's lots of things that you may be able to do with a license that don't necessarily have to be hair. But I like to say when I fell into it, it's like I fell in love with it. And so
Mm,
that was the beginning of my career.
that is so great because one of the reasons that I wanted to talk with you is because of this complicated relationship that a lot of women of color, especially Black women, have when it comes to beauty and hair and all of that. And when we talked, of course, off this platform, while there are beautiful, dark skinned models that are getting their just due now. You get people who are darker than we are, and their hair is short and teeny weeny froze, and everybody's saying, "Oh, they're gorgeous, they're gorgeous." Wasn't always that way. And one of the stories I shared with you, and I'll give the Cliff Note version, was I did not know how impacted I would be by a radio host, a very famous radio host back in 2007, who made a disparaging remark about the Rutgers University women's basketball team and referred to them as nappy headed hoes. And I didn't realize that when I was considering doing the big chop, whether I wanted to do which you end up with this really teeny weeny. Right now I have an afro, but this is all shrinkage. it's really quite long. But back then, it would have been about as long as my, fingernail when I cut all the relaxer out of it. And I never forget, as I was considering that, his words just kept coming up, almost tormenting. And I did not realize how I had been impacted, not just by his words, but all that those words brought up for me from the time that I could ever remember when it came to my hair, my texture, the kitchens, watch them kitchens, or like sitting in Miss Helen's chair with her hot comb and her bergamot grease. And my scalp had scabs on it from her getting so close trying to get my hair bone straight. And all it took was one, playing outside one time, and it was gone. All that time, all that pain was gone. And so can you speak more to that? Because I know with you being in the industry, you've probably seen it all, and the impact that how we have been socialized has, how it has wreaked havoc on our self-image or our definition of beauty, even our enoughness, which it all goes back to that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I feel the impact of those words when you're sharing them, that it's really, there's some deep wounds that we have and that we carry through, just through our history. And I was doing some work last year with trauma and that type of thing. And they've recently, I guess, scientifically proven that it's like it can be transferred through your DNA. And so things that you have no recollection of, no memory of, because you never experienced it, can really still impact you in a traumatic way. And it's like, I think those types of words powerful because they really cut to our core.
Yeah.
But our hair definitely, I think, I was trying to kind of put together some things. I put together like some talking points and that type of thing. And there's like so much to unpack with Black women and our hair. It is, we've got just different, layers and styles and how it impacts us and what's going on with it. And so one of the things that came to mind is, it's like our hair often is attached to our self-esteem. And you can see that, kind of, I guess you could say in reverse, like why I love, I'm not behind the chair right now, but it's like why I've loved, being behind the chair. The favorite thing is like when, you finish with someone and you turn them around to the mirror and it's like they're literally like smiling from their toes, And so you really feel that. And then they get out of the chair and they have a whole new swagger when they leave,
Yeah.
It's like they're elevated. And so there is really great power in, for women in particular, and not even just Black women, but women. We get energy, or I guess you could say, or it can be diminished. It's like if we're having a bad hair day, it's like we feel different, we move different, we think different than when we feel like our hair is in, looking the way that we want it to look. But at the same time, it's like kind of balancing, like, what does that hair experience look like versus, it's like, I love India Arie's song, I Am Not My Hair. Yes. And it's like, we can't allow the hair to define us and who we are, and that includes, whether it's, what you want to call it, nappy, kinky, coily, twisty, straightened, relaxed, curled, whatever it may be, it still doesn't define who you are.
Mm-mm. It doesn't. And I love that, because I have seen when I went natural, it was almost like, not everybody, but it seemed like there was this feeling that if you weren't natural or if you weren't going natural, then you had to be insecure, or you were trying to live up to some type of Eurocentric ideal. Mm-hmm. And that used to make my heart hurt, because you don't want, freedom does not require that you do things my way. You can have the freedom of saying, oh, then if I want to put color in it, I'll put color in it. If I want to put tracks in there, I'll put tracks in there. It doesn't have to be an either or, at least in my book. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to. Have you kind of in and helping with hair design and so forth. Have you, in talking to your customers, come upon that pressure? Some people sitting there with feeling pressured that if they don't go natural or if they don't use all organic products, that they're somehow or another going to lose their black card.
Okay, right. Yeah, I definitely have. And one young lady that really stands out is like she was in the military, really beautiful, and she had dark brown skin and very poised, very, intelligent, well educated. It's like I think she may have been like an engineer or something like that. And she had been wearing her hair natural and we were talking about, it's like the option of doing a smoothing treatment. It's like we did a couple, we're talking about a couple different options. And she really, you could tell she really wanted to try the smoothing treatment. And with the smoothing treatment, it's like you're not locked into it always being straight, but it makes it a lot more manageable. And in the military, you don't have like a lot of time to say, oh, well, I got to do 18 steps to my hair to make it look right.
No,
you got to move. And so, you got to have it in a bun. You got to have it, so it's meeting their requirements. But she was like terrified that her friends would, like you say, want to revoke her black card because she was wearing her hair straight for, even for a short time. And it was, she did decide to do it because it's like, I am such a big believer in you being in alignment with yourself in terms of how you want to look. But also, like you said, it's like hair is about flexibility. It's about fun. It's about, I had a look like this and it's like, I liked it. And I had a look like that and I didn't like it. And, you shampoo it, you get a new cut, you grow it out. And so there's all this level of flexibility with it. And it's like for anyone to take away that, I think is just, demeaning to your spirit. Mm-hmm. And so we did end up, doing the smoothing treatment, giving her a great shape. And it was absolutely gorgeous. And like, where people would be stopping her on the street, kind of like, ooh, who did your hair kind of thing. And she loved it. And she absolutely loved it. But you could still see there was that tinge of, what are my friends going to think? And I think, especially in the social media world and she was young, but not even in the teenager range. But, I think we have to be really careful with the messages that we're putting out because there is no one size fit all with hair. We don't even have one texture on our head.
I know.
As Black women.
I was reading up on 3A, 3B, 4A, 4B, all these different curl patterns. And I know I became a product junkie because I was looking at pictures of how other people's hair looked and they were like, we recommend this. But then you're like, but Suzanne, you don't have that kind of texture, girl. So it's not going to ever, it ain't going to ever look like that unless you put something in it, And I know that, and even the reverse of that whole nappy headed thing. And I think I told you about this, where when I first did that big chop, I was so afraid of not so much what people of other ethnicities were going to say. I was afraid of what Black men were going to think. I really did. It's like, well, with Black women, I had found a meetup group of natural sisters. So I wasn't too worried. I said, okay, there's a meetup group here. So there's a place where I can belong. But I didn't know how Black men were going to respond, to it because they were so used to seeing a certain or having a certain socialization of what beauty was. And to my surprise and delight, I remember I went to the beach. I was in Norfolk. I went to the beach and this Black man passed me. I was driving, getting ready to park, and he was leaving the parking lot and we passed each other and he was doing like, roll your window down. And I was like, okay, wait a minute, let me kind of park. He turned his car around, pulled up beside me, and he said, you are absolutely gorgeous.
Wow.
And that made me feel good because I have to be honest with you, Miki, when I first heard in my head, nappy-headed hoe, nappy-headed hoe, nappy-headed hoe, all these things about kitchens and good hair, bad hair, and it's too kinky and you don't want to sweat it out. And all these different things just came just like a tidal wave. And I was really afraid of being rejected by my own, that a Black man would not find me as attractive as he would if my hair was relaxed. And I did have, I think, one Black man. We dated for a little bit of time before I got married. And he said, well, I did like your hair better straight. And by that time, however, I had gotten such confidence, not just from the man that stopped me. It wasn't that it was because of him that I felt good, but I researched all these different teeny weeny afros and how people were styling them. And I found somebody with a hair texture close to mine. And when I saw how they did theirs, and I said, because of that Queen Helene, that pomade stuff. And I kind of gave myself a little part and kind of gave myself just a little bit of shape around the edges, couldn't do baby hair because with my texture, you put gel on this, it just don't look right. Some people can do, but that's like, we ain't even trying with the baby hair because there is no baby hair.
Okay.
So I just kind of shaped it really nice and got me some beautiful ornate earrings and wore something off shoulder. And I worked it, girl. I worked it. When I looked in the mirror, I was like, that right there. And I felt absolutely liberated. I felt elegant. I felt like, those people that you see like Madge Sinclair or these other people that when their hair is natural, or is it Armand who have the cheekbones?
Yes.
And that I felt that kind of elegance when I styled my hair that way. So by the time the gentleman said to me that he, preferred me with it straight, I didn't care. Because by that time, I felt like I had tapped into something deeper than just whether my hair was nappy or straight. I felt like I tapped into a part of myself that I did not know was missing. Missing. Yeah.
And what you described, I think, is really important because it's like there is a sense of freedom with making a decision and then getting yourself in alignment with that decision that gives you that power, that confidence that, it's like, okay, I mean, literally everybody is entitled to their opinion. And it's like, and maybe, it's like, I liked it straight last time when I was wearing it straight then too, but now I like this, and we're entitled to be able to make that shift and allow people to have their opinions without it destroying us or without it, making us feel like, oh, wow, okay, well, they said, this is that. So we've got to get it from inside. And I think a lot of times we try to get it from the outside, from making the outside look different, which is definitely, short-lived because then there's another hoop to jump through. It's like, what do I need to do now to fit in? What do I need to do now?
Yeah. Nothing is really causing, I think, us to delve more into what our definition of beauty is than what we were talking about, how this seems to be a rise in autoimmune issues that involve hair.
Right.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? Because I know you've touched on it with me, but I'm seeing it more, and I didn't know if maybe it's like, well, I don't recall it being like this. You had a little bit of a little breakage or thinning a little bit as people got older, but to go into alopecia or some of the autoimmune, it just seems to me I'm seeing more of it.
Yeah.
Am I wrong or?
You are correct. Unfortunately, it's like we are seeing an increase in hair loss, and particularly with both men and women, but women, we're definitely seeing a very big rise, and it's not even race-based. It's like it's across the board. And the hair is a reflection of the inside of the body. And so the inside of the body has to be healthy and maintained. And like when you say autoimmune disease, it's like the body is kind of attacking itself in a sense. And the gut is one of the things that they've, discovered is a really big key, that there's a balance there with with all the what's inside, not to get too technical, but basically it's like, I think there's a lot in terms of our diets that are contributing to it. Obviously, it's like if we even look back, for when I was growing up, I know, people, I talk to my mom sometimes, it's like they have had a lot of responsibilities and there were a lot of things to keep up with, but it just feels like the pace right now is faster and faster and faster. And it's like, we got to do this and we got to get this and we got to go over here. And, and even with COVID, it was just like, okay, we can slow down for a minute. We don't have to be anywhere.
Exactly.
And so, all of those things, the stress level is like, is part of our system, and the hair is very much connected to it. And so when we get stressed and when we don't sleep well and when, and a lot of times, I'm just doing my own research and discovery for my own self, as well as, sharing it with others, eating wise, and the things I'm discovering, there's a lot of things in the foods that we're eating, that aren't necessarily good for us. And it's like, it's showing up. And I think things like your hair and your nails can a lot of times indicate the health, or things that are going on in your body before there's even a medical test for it. And so if you are experiencing or seeing it, to definitely pay attention earlier, catching it earlier is better. And going to someone who specializes in hair loss. There are hairstylists that do. There's hairstylists who usually hairstylists that get another designation called trichologist. They are an excellent resource to go to and really get some more in-depth analysis of what's going on. It's like we can go to the dermatologist, and depending on the person that, the dermatologist that you go to, they may or may not be able to really delve into what's causing it. They deal with the skin, and I think there a lot of times should be a good partnership between medical and, someone like a trichologist or someone who's experienced as a hairstylist with hair loss.
Because when you were talking, I remember when they called it back then nerve, she has nerves, has nervous condition. And I can remember, and this is the truth, Miki, I can remember if I was like really stressful or full of anxiety or having a panic attack or having a rough time, especially teenage years. Oh my God, who doesn't? Right. But even then, when I would like compress my own hair, I did notice that one side would straighten very easily. The other side, I don't care what I did, it refused to straighten. And that side, it was always this side. And I can remember times where Miss Helen, the lady that did the deep fry, the deep fry kind of hair straightening process. I don't recommend it, but she would be like, "You've been picking the back of your head," because I'd have breakage back here.
Right.
And she said, "You've been picking at your hair. You've been picking at your hair." And I didn't recall picking at my hair or twirling it or anything like that. But there was definitely a difference in the way my hair responded based on what I was dealing with.
Right.
There really was. And some people told me I was crazy, because I remember when I got my first relaxer when I was in college. And I remember I could tell the difference if I was getting ready to go get a relaxer or going to get what we used to call it when you used to get a touch-up. I used to get a touch-up. Right. Or was it a retrace? I'm
touch up or retouch, depending on where you are in the country.
I'm revealing my age, I think. But I remember I would be like, okay, I can't drink a soda, because if I drank a soda before I went in to get my hair retouched or relaxer, my scalp would be more tender and would be more burn prone. And people used to tell me, "Oh, there is no connection." I'm like, tell it to my scalp. Okay. Because I know when I drink a soda,
right,
this happens. And so it is, to me, it's such a uniqueness. And I love you brought it out, that there is a connection between the health of your hair and the health of your body.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what you experienced is so true, because it's like, really, caffeine is a stimulant and it stimulates all of your nerves. And so if you have, like you say, a soda that's with caffeine, because not all of them are dark, but
Yeah.
or if you have a cup of coffee, it's like those things, you will be more sensitive.
See, I wish I
You
wish
weren't
I had
crazy.
had you. They were like, no, Suzette, you making stuff up. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Right.
I tell you what, I'm not drinking. I couldn't even drink a cup of soda. It was like,
Right.
I'm not doing it because my scalp will be very, very tender
Right.
and all that. And you
And we
had,
all have different bodies, and we all have different,
yeah,
experiences with different things. Like I can't drink coffee at all. I'll be up for like 2 days with just like a couple,
really?
yeah, the caffeine really affects me, and so everything we do and experience affects us differently than say the next person next to us, even if we're related. Sometimes there are things that go through family lines, and sometimes you're like the only one that really has that experience. But yeah, but I think that's the wisdom that we need to have with ourselves, with our bodies, with our hair, to know, it's like, this is what I need to do.
So now, have you ever referred somebody like you were doing their hair and you noticed they were having a whole lot of stress, a whole lot of issues, and you were noticing their hair was not healthy, it was not responding? Have you ever referred somebody to a nutritionist or to a therapist, or suggested they might want to check that out, just because you were working with their hair and you knew the signs?
Yeah, definitely. I think that you have to be able to have, like something happens magical when people sit in our chairs, they start telling us stuff, but sometimes it's, we end up in more of the gossip lane than the taking care of the client lane. So I think it's important to have both of those kind of conversations or what have you. But definitely as a stylist, if I'm noticing something, I'm definitely going to bring it to your attention. And I know some stylists are a little more hesitant, they don't want to have the hard conversations, because who wants to hear that, you're seeing some thinning in the top or that type of thing that they may not be able to see. But I think it's really important. And it's like, I had a dermatologist that I worked with, I referred to, she was a Black female. And honestly, I had never met her. She was like I think she was the sister-in-law of one of my clients. My client was a physician and her sister-in-law was a dermatologist. And so, I had someone who needed to see one, and she went, and it was great because some dermatologists will give you, us as Black women, something that's wet and say, put it on every morning. And it's like, that is not going to happen. We're not wetting our hair down. And
No,
we
not
just
every.
got it done.
No.
And
It's like, do you
so,
realize how much I paid for this?
exactly. Nor am I even trying to do it once we get the scalp wet again. So,
I know that's right.
yeah, we're not putting liquid on our scalp every day and those kind of things, it's like, so you get no results because you don't do it. And it's like, but the doctor doesn't understand that why you're not going to do it, and that there has to be a different type of solution. And so working with somebody that understands all of that was really great. And my clients that came back, it's like they'd be in really good shape. And I did finally end up going to her for something else and
Did
met
you?
her.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because it is true. Just anybody cannot give us advice. And when I
Mhm.
say us, especially Black women, because I've only been Black, y'all. I know people of color out there, but I've only been Black for all my life. So I know specifically when it comes to us, like you were saying, Miki, ain't no way. Once we get that hair done, ain't no way.
Uh-huh.
Don't tell us to come swimming. Don't
Right.
tell us to do. And I love the fact that in a lot of the nighttime dramas and shows, they're showing Black women wrapping our hair up.
Hey, yep.
I love that because I'm like, that's what you're gonna be with.
Okay.
Get used to it. Ain't gonna be no hair flowing, laying on the pillow. At least not
Okay.
not for me. It's like maybe somebody else. But no, we're gonna brush that hair into or
Mhm.
whatever and tie it up. So you're
Yeah.
just gonna have to be ready for that. So yeah, I
Yeah, I
think
think,
that's
yeah,
really good.
you
What
just
is this
reminded me of Viola Davis on How to Get Away with Murder. It's like she went all in. It was like,
girl? When she washed that makeup off her face, you could have sold me for lit. I was like, oh no, she not. Oh, she giving away all our secrets. Wait a
okay.
minute. She pulled that hat off and had that little stocking cap.
It was all over. All the secrets were out.
I'm like, okay, this is too real. This is too real. Oh my God. But I think she started something because I noticed after then, I didn't see people doing it to that extent.
Right.
But that wrapping your hair
Yeah.
up, I was so tickled on This Is Us.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Seeing my girl wrap her hair up
Yeah.
and others, it's like it's becoming a normal thing. Even talk about reality shows. Love is Blind. I don't know if you
Okay. I haven't seen that one.
oh girl. But there was this Black girl who ended up falling in love with this white man. And
Uh,
I love the fact that even on that show, when they showed them like having conversations and so forth early in the morning, honey, she had her hair wrapped right
right.
on up. And she said, this is what you're going to get.
Exactly.
You know, I was real cute when you first saw me because, of course, they didn't see them until they proposed. And
Okay.
once they proposed, they met each other, face to face. And she was,
Oh, okay.
gorgeous, still is. But after that, and they were kind of like on that where they're talking about the wedding and getting to know each other further. She'd come right out the cut with her hair wrapped
Right.
up. And I think every Black woman was like, yes,
Yep.
yes, that's it. So, Miki, what would you say? And I know building bosses and instilling excellence in those who aspire to take their hair design or whatever to the next level and really make a formidable business
Hmm.
out of it. What advice would you give them from the inside out? Not just because my thing is there are a lot of people who can be really impressive, but I think one of the things that you and I share is that integrity is very important.
Hmm.
So what would you share with someone aspiring and they see what you're doing and they're trying to take notes on it? What's the soft underbelly, the integrity piece that you could share with them as to your secret sauce to your success?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's so important. And some of the things we've been talking about today is like finding that inner voice, that inner confidence, that inner strength to be who you are and be able to share that with people and to be able to come from that place. So, like I mentioned, it's like sometimes there's hard conversations that we have, and even just connecting with people, as a newer stylist, especially, doing consultations and finding out we need to know about what's going on with you medically. We need to know what medications and stuff that you're taking. And that can feel really invasive, but it's like, you've got to come from a sense of, the knowledge that I need to have to be able to perform the service. If you're on certain medications, it may interact with this. And there's a lot of, I think, lack of boundaries in a sense where people are so ingrained for some reason. And I don't know if it's social media or if it's, role models or what's more needed, but it's like we feel like we have to be nice. And in order to be nice, that means we don't count. And so I think looking at relationships like as a win-win, and that is a client hairstylist relationship, it's like it doesn't work if only the client wins. If you say, yes, I'll come in early. Yes, I'll stay late. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do, and you don't really mean it, there is no integrity there. And, we're like, oh, well, I would never tell a client that. It's like, but I think everything is energy. And so when you're not saying it, it's like, don't think that the other person's not feeling it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they know. They know if you just finished gassing them up. you know, but
Yeah.
when you were talking about that money charging, I
Hmm.
know that's a struggle for a lot of women aspiring
Hmm.
to be business owners. I
Yes.
hear it all the time, struggling with pricing. And I love that you attack that,
Hmm.
on your podcast about pricing. What do you tell people? What is your formula for knowing when to raise your prices or having integrity even in that? you know?
Yeah. I guess what I look at is like a sweet spot. And it's like, I call it my sweet spot pricing. And it's like, I want you working, doing the things that you enjoy all day and making more for it. And so some of that, it's like we think about, got to learn how to cut better, got to learn how to do this better, got to learn how to do that better. And that's great. It's like I'm big on, knowledge, but you don't have to wait to raise your prices. And so it's kind of four pieces, I guess. And it's really mindset shift, because we have a lot of, about a lot of different emotions tied to money in general, and receiving, especially as women. And then, scaling your confidence. It's like, you've got to build that inner confidence. And I give you tools to be able to do that, and it doesn't take long. My main program is like 6 weeks, and some people have raised their prices after day one. It's like they come back and say, okay, nope, I made some changes and all of that. And then it's building that communication skill, so that you can have the conversations with your clients and not get the pushback, and get them, kind of on board with you and partner with them. And so learning how to communicate is a whole nother skill set that a lot of times we don't get much information in. And then it's setting the prices, but it has to make sense with, your expenses, your goals, your location. All of those things need to be taken into place. And a lot of times we're just grabbing a number out of the air. We don't know why we get paid for it. We don't know what we're getting paid for. So I share with people, it's about your time, and it's about your knowledge, and it's about the experience that you create for the clients. And so
that's so true, because I love it, because regardless to whether the person is aspiring to take their hair business to the next level or anything to the next level, you're right. It starts first inside.
Yeah.
And I think this educational system has really put in us this belief that you've got to like have a resume of a certain length or a certain, whatever, in order for you to qualify for higher prices. It's like, I'm showing you all these things, I can do all these things, so that means you should pay me more. And what I'm learning, and what I think what we both are saying is, you've got to have the value. You got to know how valuable what you bring is to the table. And the older I get, Miki, I'm learning, because I know even with coaching, people will say, well, do I need to go to the federation, the coaching federation, and get certified, or do I need to go back to school, or do I need to do all these things to be a coach? And I said, you know what? You can do all those things, hang your shingle, and people still not pick you, because I don't have all of those things. I do have some certifications, but not to the extent that some people go to, because I feel like, depending on what kind of coach you are, if you're coaching people internally, they got to feel a connection.
Right.
They got to feel a connection with you. And I'm trying to think, I don't think I've only been asked maybe 1 or 2 times since I started in 1995, maybe 1 or 2 times. Where did you get your certification? How long have you been coaching? Things like that. And usually the people that ask me that aren't really serious. But most of the people that come, they always say, you said something to me in a way that nobody else has said it that way before. And I knew you were my person because of that.
Right.
And so if people do cultivate that inside, learn that they are enough, that's where it all starts, learning that their gift, that thing that they do so naturally that they don't even think that much about it, that's their power to influence and to transform and to change. And so many of us are not taught to really take the time to find out what that is.
Right.
Yes. So anyway, so Miki, as we bring this to a close, what would you like the takeaway to be for someone listening to this that says, I want to do what she's doing, but I don't know where to start. You had mentioned your program. So
Mhm.
can you tell them, what the takeaway is and how they can connect with you? Because I mean, you have not just the words, but you have the evidence. And it's nothing like somebody working with somebody who says, listen, here are the receipts. I
Mhm.
know what I'm talking about. And if you do what I tell you to do, you can grow exponentially.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. Well, I love, helping hairstylists in particular, business, small business owners as well. But I think it is, and the takeaway I think is that you are already enough, as you talk about what your show is about, it's like we're already born enough. And so, myself included, it's like I keep thinking, it's like, okay, well, maybe I need to do this, and do that. It's not another class per se, but it's like I'm in action. And it's like, okay, slow down. It's like you're already good. The world, I guess my measurement is like if this doesn't happen, it's like, will the sun still come up tomorrow? It's like, yep.
mm-hmm.
It's not that important. It's not that deep. Take a deep breath and know that, it's like you have everything you need and you have access to everything you need. And it's like I do Beauty Superstars Talk, the podcast weekly, where I interview Black beauty bosses because I want to share, and celebrate the excellence that's already going on in the beauty industry from people who a lot of times don't get the recognition that they deserve, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times don't get the exposure. And I want to be able to get their stories, their firsthand accounts of, what has made them so successful. Because I definitely think, it's like you become who you hang around with. And it's like to be the best, you have to hang around the best. And so it just gives everybody an opportunity, no matter where you are, to hang out with the best people, the best and brightest people in the beauty industry each week. You can visit beautysuperstars.com. That's my website. And I have an online academy. So there's training that's there. I have ebooks. There's a lot of different things that I can guide you through in terms of your career. It's like I focus a lot right now on helping hairstylists to be able to, raise their prices, elevate their client experience, and be able to create the career that they dreamed of. Because a lot of us, while we're doing our thing, it's like it doesn't look anything like we thought it was going to look. And so I want you to be able to create it the way that you want to create it. And of course, that may change over time. So there's always ways to reset and reshape and really reinvent ourselves. And I think this is the time that we have to really look at that. It's like, what do we want? What's important? What do we want going forward? And so I'm happy
Yeah.
to be of service. And you can follow me on Instagram at Miki Wright, which just has 1K. Everybody wants to do different initials, just MIKIWRIGHT. And visit beautysuperstars.com, and you can get on the list. We'll tell you each week when we have the broadcast coming out, and you'll be informed with different tips to help you grow your business, as well as being able to know when we're doing upcoming events. So,
Oh, yes. Yeah, Miki has some great people on her podcast. I know one of them you were saying, well, her product is in Sally's. I'm like, what?
yeah, Cindy Talia, that sounds
Yeah, I'm like,
right.
oh my goodness.
Diva by
So,
Cindy.
yes, yes. And that
Yeah.
makes me feel so good too to have you on the podcast, because I always like to have people that I feel comfortable recommending. I'm not a person that moves fast
Hmm.
in recommending people, because I've done that before and
Right.
regretted it.
Hmm.
But when you've been around someone that is the same, I mean, you carry the same grace and the same knowledge, and your hair is laid every time I see you. It's like, wait, what's she doing?
Oh,
Every
thank
time,
you.
every time it's laid. But it's just so great. You are a walking expression, I think, of how people should approach the industry and approach business and approach beauty.
Mhm.
I've admired you for a long time, and I'm just so grateful that you
Yeah.
said yes to come on my
Yeah, absolutely.
podcast.
Yes. What an honor. And I do just want to share that, anyone who is taking care of people's hair It's like to consider it, you said the word grace, to consider it, really a responsibility and really a gift that we get to touch people. It's like we're one of the few people licensed to touch people, besides doctors and dentists. And so, but when we touch them, it's like they enjoy it. They like what we're doing. And so consider it a gift, take good care of what you're taking, care to style, and make sure that it's, it's like we can cause permanent damage with, traction alopecia. We didn't talk about much of that, but hair is being pulled out, edges are being lost, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that is permanent damage. And it not only permanently damages parts of our body, it permanently damages some of our self-esteem as well. And so it's a gift and an honor to be able to work on someone and to be able to help them shape the way that they share themselves with the world.
Mm-hmm. It is, and it's a gift and it's a responsibility,
Absolutely.
And I love what you said about sometimes you have to kind of gently push back because what they're asking you for, it's not going to turn out the way that they want it to, or that it is going to cause that traction,
right?
Alopecia, and that is true. I meant to definitely talk about that. How people, when they're having heavy braids and different styles that are pulling back this part, that it starts causing some issues with that. And I know personally, not even from that, but there's certain styles I can't wear because they cause me neck and shoulder issues because I have to sleep awkwardly.
Okay.
Because of the style. So there's certain things I've seen people with beautiful braids and beautiful styles. And I've, in my dreaming, thinking about what Angela Bassett and when Stella got a groove back and she had those beautiful braids.
Right.
Honey, if I got braids like that, my head would be hurting and my neck would be hurting because I just can't carry it. I've tried for years to do different styles, but I can't have any extra hair pulling because it really causes me to have headaches, and also because of having to sleep in a way that I either have to pull all my hair up so I can sleep or put it to the side and I'm sleeping kind of lumpy or whatever. My chiropractor might love it, but I don't particularly want to give him that much money.
I know that's right.
So kudos to people who can do it. I've just had to accept for my own health. There's certain things I just can't do.
Yeah.
So
and
I'm so glad to touch on that.
The inches, this long hair, the long braids, it was to the waist and now it's past the butt. Now it's to the floor. All of that does cause stress on the hair follicle. And so you may be causing damage from that way, in that way. And so be very careful. It's like we all want to be fashionable and trendy and that type of thing, but it's like, do it sparingly so you can keep your hair for a lifetime.
That was it.
Right.
Thank you, Miki. Thank you so much for just taking the time out. And listeners, I want you to know, no matter what you're going through in life, that you are worthy. You are worth it. You are more than enough. Bye now. You have just listened to the Enough Factor podcast with your host, Suzette Vernon. To get notified of new episodes or to dig deeper into today's topic, become a subscriber. And while you're at it, tell us how we're doing and what topics you're interested in. We appreciate your feedback and your reviews. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are worth it, you are enough.